what we do is amazing work and it impacts a lot of lives, but my family is the core of that, and they're the number one priority.
Right.
And so my goal isn't to take over the world and to work more and more and more. It's like, how can I work with the goal of having more time with my family?
Welcome to Mindset Mastery Podcast, where we explore the intersections of motherhood and entrepreneurship. I'm your host, Julissa Edwards, and in each episode, we're diving into mindset, emotional regulation, and the real stories of mom entrepreneurs navigating both business and family life. Let's get into it. Hello, and welcome back to another episode on Mindset Mastery with yours truly, Julissa Edwards. This is season 2, where we are doing all things how to juggle motherhood and entrepreneurship. So today with me, I have a beautiful guest, Stephanie Strouth, and she is a proud owner of her own mental health practice, which I'm going to let her go into in just one second. But one of the reasons that I really invited her on this discussion for today is because she is a mama herself and she is juggling a whole business with multiple providers underneath her. And we're going to get into the nitty-gritty of what all that looks like. So, okay, Stephanie, can you tell us a little bit more about you and what is the business that you run?
Okay, sure. I am Stephanie Strouth, a wife, mother to 2 boys, and to our, well, work-wise mental health practice in Virginia. So I own Anchoring Cope Counseling. We have 2 locations, one in Wise and one in Abingdon, Virginia, and we employ 9 people, including myself, part-time and full-time. So we have several counselors and our amazing support staff who we could not live without.
Wow, I have already so many questions, and I love to hear that because these are different kinds of businesses, and you're in a stage of your business where you're responsible for people's salaries. Multiple, there's 9 people underneath you stated, including yourself.
Mhm.
That must come with its own challenges as a business owner. Can you tell us a little bit more about the growth as to how you got there? Did you begin as just you with your own practice and then you hired other counselors? How did that go for you?
Yeah, so basically my origin story is that it was 2020. I was bored. But I'd kind of heard like to add an extra layer of protection, you could form an LLC, and I did that. I started seeing clients private pay only, and I rented out just a single office in the back of a building. And it was $100 a month, and it was glorious. So it was just me. And then I got to a point to where I was accepting insurance, and it exploded from there. And I really needed some help. So uh, I reached out and got another provider who was working toward her licensure, and we just grew from there to it was me and her. And then I contacted the owner of the building and I was like, hey, I need to expand. I'm gonna have to like find somewhere else to go. And he was like, why don't you just buy the building from me? And he's like, I'm not even going to ask market price. I just want what's left on my loan. Um, I
Wow.
probably paid like half of what it's worth or a third of what this building is worth. So,
Wow.
uh, bought the whole building and it just grew from there and grew into a second office. But, um, I think one thing from your original question is that stuck out for me through that growth is really trying to get into the mindset of like, you're going from just you, and we can a lot of times handle that kind of stress. And it's like, okay, it's just me. It's not that level of responsibility. But then you add somebody,
Mhm.
and it's like, oh gosh, this is their livelihood and this is their life. And it's just a whole nother level of responsibility that you have to kind of work through and figure out how to grapple with that mentally to be able
Yeah.
to manage that responsibility.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love this conversation and I think intertwines beautifully with motherhood because I always express to my clients that, motherhood and business are, for me, they're one and the same. They have a lot of the same life lessons. And so when you hire a team member, we're a small team of three right now. When you hire a team member, yeah, you're responsible for them. And in the beginning, at least my experience as a business owner, it was like just me. I was responsible for doing all the things. If something didn't happen, it was on me. If I was going to be upset at anybody, it was with myself. And so then you bring in team members that absolutely take the load off of you. And there's growing lessons as a manager, as a CEO, as a business owner. And that can kind of be similarly translated to the beginning of motherhood, where, in a stereotypical, home, maybe it's you and your partner, and you guys are just living the go happy life, just you two, right? And then you bring in a beautiful baby, and it's like, oh my God, our world kind of turns upside down for a little bit, and we have new responsibilities, new routines, new schedules, new things that we have to put in our everyday lives to make sure that we are all working well cohesively as a family unit. So, can you go into maybe the similarities of that in your take of business and motherhood and how maybe being a mama has helped you, gave you brighter insight to become a better business owner?
Yeah, for sure. So a couple things that come to mind is one is that transition from, well, my situation was a little bit different, but like sometimes you romanticize having a child or another child, and it's like you don't really know what it's going to be like, but you like imagine all the good stuff. It's kind of sometimes similar with an employee, like, oh, they're going to help and they're going to take on this workload and they're going to do this. But it's like sometimes you're just
Mm,
not so aware of all the problems that can come up. So I think you can really take life lessons from being a mother and apply that to being an entrepreneur and business owner, in that if we're thinking of mothers and being a mother and problems are going to come up, what do? We work through them and we come out the other side of it. Um, Ideally with a lot of grace.
mhm, mhm,
Yet being firm where we need to. So there's like that happy balance in that medium. And the same applies to our work life is okay, there's going to be times that we do give our employees grace and all that and take our responsibility, like, oh, well, they messed up because I didn't do the correct training. And just being willing to accept where your responsibility is when things go wrong, and recognize too, though, like, okay, where are things that are their responsibility, but also looking at it like, how can we grow from this? Just
mhm.
when things go wrong, it's not about shutting down or giving up or quitting. We can't do that in motherhood, right? So
We
why would we
can't.
do that in business? Let's keep going.
Yeah, 1000%. Tell us more about your children. Do you have one kiddo, a couple of kiddos, and how old were they when you began your business?
Okay. Oh gosh, math. So my boys are 17 and 3. I
Oh,
had my
wow.
17-year-old when I was 17, a
Okay.
senior in high school, and then I had my 3-year-old 3 years ago. So
Mhm.
I started in the mental health field in 2016, and then I started my practice in 2020. So we were actively trying to get pregnant whenever I was starting my business.
Okay. Okay. So when you in 2020, so I'm guessing in 2016, you got your licensure, you just began in the field.
2016 is when when I started. I was like toward the end of my master's program. And
Okay.
that's when I was working for, around here, it would be a coal company. So I was
Yeah.
working for a coal company, and then I took a huge pay cut and moved over to the mental health field.
Okay. Well, I gotta ask, what made you want to go into the mental health field?
Oh goodness, that's a dark story. I don't want to trigger anybody. There's two pieces to it, and I'll be like not so in depth. One is that my dad was diagnosed with schizophrenia and bipolar disorder, and so he struggles with a lot of those things even today. So that was like my initial interest. But as
Yeah.
far as like what prompted me when I went full blown, like, okay, yeah, I'm doing this degree, is that I'll phrase it generally, someone in my life went through something very bad and someone else was affected by it. Trying to tiptoe.
That's okay.
I couldn't do anything about that situation, but I could help other people. So I ended up wanting to specialize in working with trauma and then adult survivors of child abuse.
Wow. Okay.
So that's what I went into it wanting to do and
Yeah.
specialize in today.
Okay, so very passion forward. You're very yeah, this is close to the heart for you.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, and I think as business owners, like it kind of has to be. Of course, not everybody has the same story, but there's a big entrepreneurship isn't easy, right? And it's I know I've gone through my own journey of processing what entrepreneurship has been like for me. I'm such like a goal-getter, high achiever, like always going. I'm very ambitious, and so in the beginning, I think my mind played tricks of like, this is easy, this is great. I have my own schedule, like And listen, I absolutely adore my business. I think I've grown immensely as a woman, as a leader from my business. But it is anything far from easy.
Yeah.
Right? There's just so many juggling pieces. And so I bring that up because your passion story as to why, or the trickle effect that occurred that allowed you to become who you are today, it's very much from what I'm hearing near and dear to your heart. And so it's very important. And so maybe that's a great insight to give some individuals who are looking to go into business that are mamas of, this really has to speak to you because you're going to be doing this while juggling motherhood. And, I'm just going to be fully frank, not to take anything away from the 9 to 5 world that has its own stressors. But sometimes when you're doing something already complex, like being a mother, for me to be a mama is to be the matriarch and leader of your family. And so you're juggling all the things there. It's like, do you also want to juggle something else? I know I do because this brings me a lot of passion. It brings me a lot of fulfillment, embodiment in what I'm doing with people and how I'm helping them, which I'm sure is the same for you,
Mm.
Steph. Yeah. So just to get a good picture, in case any mamas can relate to it. So how old was your 17-year-old now then when you were beginning your business?
Okay. So that would have been 4 years ago. He was 13 when I opened my company.
Okay, so that is what, eighth grade?
Sure.
I'm trying to get a good mental picture. Okay, so
Four
yes.
years ago, he's in 12th. So yes.
Yeah, okay. So he was in eighth grade and he was about to go through a shift in school, right? Going into high school.
Mhm.
And just like the juggling a 13-year-old boy and what they go through and all the things. And was that ever I don't want to say problematic or an issue, but how did you juggle, having the faith and the mindset to say, like, I'm gonna go ahead and open up my own business, while also maintaining the household and making sure that you were still there for your son and things of that sort. And your partner, do you have a partner?
Yes, I'm married. Yep.
Yeah, okay,
He's
yeah, your
dark.
husband. Yeah, yeah. So how was that?
I mean, I think obviously having him, I tell him all the time, like he's my rock. Like I could not have done any of this without him. So, uh, Dart, you get full credit, full points if you listen to this.
Mhm.
Um, but I think as far as like when my son was in eighth grade, it was way more doable because when they're in eighth, they're a lot more self-sufficient than a 3-year-old.
Oh,
So a lot of it is more like he's doing his thing, I'm doing my thing, come together for meals and going out and like we really like to travel. So a lot of our time is spent more like traveling and doing that kind of thing, more so than specific things every day. But I did always feel it was important for me it to like be home before they go to school and be home when they're coming home from school. Because growing up, my mom was gone from like 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. And our stepdad was the one who was there in the mornings and evenings. So that was one area I like never really wanted to compromise on. I
yeah.
had to sometimes, but surviving and thriving are two different places. You do the things you
Yeah.
need to survive, but thriving that's what I want it to look like. I want to be there before they leave and when they get home.
Okay. And having a business has given you the autonomy to do that.
100%. Yep.
Yeah, beautiful. And so, well, now you have both perspectives of also having a toddler while running a business, and how is that different, and how has that maybe produced other challenges?
Yeah, that's a totally different world. But it's in to the entrepreneur in me, it is frustrating. To the mother in me, I'm like thankful for it because especially for those earlier years, it's like my husband teaches, but he also coaches and he would coach swim and tennis. And it's like, well, he's gone in the mornings and he's not home till 6:30 on days there isn't a meet or a match, and like 8, 9, 10, 11 on times that there were. So it was really
Mhm.
really stressful because a lot of that fell on me, and I would take him to daycare and pick him up. Uh it's shifted now, but but it was nice in a way because I would pick him up from daycare and it was like a hard stop on work.
Mm.
He like won't let you work.
Yeah.
He'll come
Um,
over and type on the computer while you're trying to do,
mhm.
like, obviously you can't do sessions or calls or anything with
Yeah.
running around. And so it's just like a hard stop for work, which was really good in a way for
Mhm.
me, who is very driven and motivated and wants to do
Yeah.
stuff. But like I said, frustrating to the entrepreneur who's like, let me just do this thing. But the problem
Yeah.
is the list never ends.
Never. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yes.
it was good for me to have that.
Yeah, I can resonate with that. Yeah, I have two little ones. I have a just two, she just turned two, my daughter, and then a 3.5-year-old boy.
Mhm.
And yeah, they're like, yeah, there's no, I can try, right? And I will fail to try to do some work,
Yes.
when it's my turn to take care of the kiddos and be with them and all the things and shut off the laptop. And yeah, I
Mhm.
can agree with you that it is a hard stop and it's a necessary stop. I think
Yes.
too, that's why as an entrepreneur, I'm learning through motherhood that um I get to be more diligent with my time,
Mhm.
right? I can imagine having an older kid where you would have a little bit more flexibility, right? They could be doing homework or doing their own thing and like you could still get some work done after hours kind of
Mhm.
thing. But a little one is just different. And I'm sure having older kiddos while doing entrepreneurship is also another experience too that has its own challenges that maybe we can talk about later. But yeah, having the little ones and they need your attention all the time, as they should. They're small, they're learning. And so as an entrepreneur, I know for me, it's made me very conscious of like, I literally only have until 2 p.m. To get all the work that I have to done. And if for me, if it's not working, then my systems need to be better. I need to ask for more support because it is a hard stop at 2 p.m. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. 100%. I think one thing that can help a lot of us in this is being able to ask for help. Right there is everything.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm. Which is a large so it's a large commonality within a lot of mothers that we tend to not ask for support and help. And that too, this, you're a therapist, the way that we show up in one way is the way that we kind of show up in all of our characters and the hats that we play. And so um if someone is not comfortable or used to seeking for help, even before they became a mama, right? Like
mhm.
then comes motherhood, and we, sometimes have these expectations that we're supposed to be doing it all by ourselves or whatever the conditioning may be. And yeah, we lack the insight, the courage sometimes to ask for support. And maybe sometimes that can also roll over into business, right?
Mhm.
And not knowing how to properly utilize staff or our support systems that we have in the business.
Mhm.
Was that a learning curve for you at all?
Oh yeah. So, I mean, as far as learning to delegate and that kind of thing and using staff for that. And I think one trap, and this might be really helpful for the entrepreneurs, is something I read in a book, and it was talking about how like someone going from you're just kind of doing everything to hiring your first employee to where you start looking at your to-do list and then you start delegating. But it's like, I don't like this and this and this and this. I'm giving it all to this person. But I
Mm,
originally hired for this person for this job description, and now I'm trying to give them a bunch of stuff that's not in their job description.
mm,
So eventually that person ends up feeling the burden and the all that, and then they just end up quitting because it's too
Mhm.
much for one person. So
Mm.
being highly aware of that and planning it out before you start hiring for those additional roles, like this
Is what you
is
hired them
their
for.
job description. This is what I'm hiring for. If I am adding something, I'm making sure that they have the time to do it, but also like I'm compensating them for the increase in what they're doing.
That is good. Hey mamas, let me ask you this. Do you dream of starting your own business but feel overwhelmed by where to begin? You're not alone, and that's exactly why I created our free WhatsApp group, Balancing Business and Babies, a safe space for moms like you who are ready to take that first step towards entrepreneurship while balancing the beautiful chaos of motherhood. Inside, you'll find daily mindset shifts and tips, encouragement from women on the same journey, and bi weekly free community calls. Whether you are still in the dreaming phase or ready to take action, this group is here to support you every step of the way. And the best part? It's totally free. Just click the link in the show notes below to join. Mama, your dreams are very much possible, and you don't have to do it alone. Let's build your vision together, and I'll see you in the group inside. I used to feel guilty. I hired somebody to do this role, this task, and it was to alleviate the burden off of me because it wasn't my strong suit,
Mhm.
and but because I had such this is a completely a me thing, which most problems are, right? It was like I hate these tasks so much. My internal thoughts were, this person must hate it too.
Ah,
Right. And the obvious had, like, they literally were hired to do this thing, but I would hand off the task feeling guilty, feeling like, oh my God, they're gonna hate working for me. Like, I don't like doing these things. Why would they like doing it? And mind you, she loved it.
yeah.
The things that she wanted to do, but it was my own internal inner voices that were telling me that it wasn't gonna be good, that she was gonna end up like not liking the job. And that can sometimes translate into motherhood too, where it's like, could I ask for help? This is so much for me as a mother. Why would anybody else want to chime in and help me with this task?
Hmm. Yeah.
You know?
And
So
well,
go
oh,
ahead. No, no, you go ahead.
okay, I was just gonna say, as far as I've seen this pattern a lot lately, and it's where a ton of our issues stem from is like when we're projecting our own beliefs or core values even, or our feelings onto like assuming that someone else would feel the same way, or someone
Yeah.
else would have the same level of morality or ethicality or whatever that we do. But we do that also within our families too, is like just assume like this child falls and gets hurt and we're like, oh gosh, that has to hurt so bad. Oh honey, are you
Mhm.
okay? But like
Mhm.
we're projecting how we would feel about it on them, so taking more, trying to be more neutral
Yeah.
whenever things like that happen, to like give them space to feel their own feelings.
Absolutely. Literally, as you said that, I had like a spitting image. My son, he just like had his first huge fall. He has a
Mm,
scooter, and he's never had a big bleeding gash before. Like, it was the first,
yeah.
and he completely, like, he went over the bike, over the scooter, and I just saw it happening, and I was like, oh, I
Mm,
was like, okay, let's see how we're gonna handle this.
yeah.
And yeah, I just waited for his response, and he was petrified. It was scary for him. He wasn't hurt too bad, thankfully, but it was more so like he's never leapt through the air like that. you
Yeah.
know? And so yeah, I'm right there with you of just like observing and just being like, how are you feeling about this? And then taking it from there. And yeah, that could be translatable into as an owner, as a business owner, as well as like, how is your role at the company? Do you enjoy what you're doing? How can we help you feel like you have more, what's the word I'm looking for? Pride in the work that you do. Are you enjoying the work that you do? Check-ins like that for me have been helpful, but as a business owner too, to just know that the people that are on my team enjoy that's important to me, enjoy what they're doing and feel like they're a part of the greater mission.
Hmm. Yeah, 100%. And as far as to like taking that approach of whenever there's an issue that arises, a lot of times it's like, oh, you're not happy here. Oh, this is, and we have our own feelings about it. But being able to pause first of all and take a step back, but like leave space for their feelings to be there, before you kind of go through theirs. But also,
Mhm.
like, just like with our kids, sometimes our feelings about something, we don't necessarily need to flesh that out with an employee. Just like we don't need to maybe tell our kids certain things about how we feel, but that's better in other containers. But then we can come back to an employee or our child and like refine how what we say and make it come off either more professionally or more understanding or whatever in either setting.
Yeah, so lots of reflection is needed for both roles.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, which is really true. Yeah, yeah, because motherhood, it causes us to look inward a lot, right? Why did I feel this way? Did I come off too harshly? Why was that? Was that from my past? What were my expectations? What's realistic? And those same inner thoughts are very relatable to a business owner, right? What were my expectations of this person? Why did that bother me? How can I approach this differently? How can I, as it's not a coworker, you're kind of you're responsible for them in a sense, right? And you are opting in as the leader, same as a mother, you are the leader. And so yeah, it takes a lot of, I love it. I love being challenged in both aspects, and I think they both hold very similar roles. Of course, we're doing different things, but I believe the mindset behind it is it's very similar.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So, Steph, I would love to hear about maybe some of your greatest takeaways that you've had as a business owner, some of the things that, have provided great success for you and your company, um, and if that at all has intertwined with your experience as a mother.
I guess recognizing appropriate responsibility and that kind of thing. Like, I guess there's similarities, but there's also differences between motherhood and entrepreneurship. Like with motherhood, our kids didn't sign up for this,
Mm,
like they're here. Kind of we signed them up for this. Uh, our staff and employees, that kind of thing, like they signed up for this. This is something that they've agreed and that they want to do because they believe in the direction of the company and want to be a part of that. So
mm,
I try to remember with that, like whenever, if it ever comes down to, I'm thinking of like mom guilt, but also connecting to like feeling guilty if the company doesn't do as well as expected, or like, oh, they're not getting as many referrals. Like instead of going down that road of feeling guilty about those things, it's like, okay, we let them know this ahead of time and give them as much preparation as we can, just like we do with our kids. Like whenever things going down, we give them as much preparation as we can.
mm,
But then the other side of that, like that's their responsibility and that's their side that they can control. And if they want to stay, that's all, that's their choice. Our kids don't get that choice. It's like they're
mm.
with us. They're our ride or dies.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I love that perspective. It is different. It's many differences within both, being a mama and being an entrepreneur. Um, what is the vision that you see for the company that you own right now moving forward, and how does that interlace with your family?
Yeah. So one of the things, like our, I guess, slogan would be like helping people find peace in the chaos of life without the uncertainty. And there's kind of a subset to that. So that's like our client facing kind of thing. But as far as like trying to appeal to therapists and hiring and that kind of thing, is like getting people on board with it, is one of the big things I really try to focus on, is that burnout, man, burnout is real. And how can we avoid burnout? So we do like a lot of different things to try and combat that. So it's more like you're not here 40 hours a week. You make your own schedule, you choose the days that you want to work. And also we pay differently. We pay differently. So it kind of comes out to like, you're in the office for your sessions. If you want to do your notes and stuff, you're more than welcome to do that. You can do that from home, whatever. But most of my full-time people work 3 days a week, and they choose their caseloads. They choose when they want to go on a wait list. Um, So I'm really trying to give them as much control over their schedule as they can while making a livable income.
Mhm.
And that's a delicate balance too. But the goal of that was like for me personally and where I want to go in my life is like knowing, yeah, what we do is amazing work and it impacts a lot of lives, but my family is the core of that and they're the number one priority.
Right.
And so my goal isn't to take over the world and to work more and more and more. It's like, how can I work with the goal of having more time with my family?
Mhm. Mhm.
And I think that that's something that shows through as far as with our employment is like, I want you to work 3 days a week if you want to do that. If you want to spread it across five and work in between while your kid's at school, like you can do that. Is
Mhm.
just doing what you need to do with your family is your priority
Mhm.
in
Oh,
whatever shape that looks like. And it can work with someone at different phases. Like if you're in that survival and you need um and like money is your priority, by all means work more hours. Just don't live in that survival mode forever.
yeah. So you're leading by example, that you have a passion for the business that you run, and you're also mindful of keeping a good balance so that you can not be burnt out, not be overworked, and majority of your energy and time is spent with your family. And so it sounds like you're modeling that with your employees, that you can choose how you want to utilize your hours. You still have responsibilities here, right? Like you were hired to do X thing, but yeah, make it work, and
Mhm.
I'm open to supporting that, so that whatever their priorities are, whether they have families or not, they can also tend to their own personal needs as well.
Right. And maybe they don't have a family. Maybe it's just them, whatever it is,
Yeah.
but like
Mhm.
that frees them to go do whatever they want to do, like explore a new passion or whatever.
Mhm.
And that's up to them.
And staying happy.
Yes.
An
Do
important
the
piece.
things that like fuel their self-care tank rather than empty
Yes.
it.
Yeah, so that we can come to work fully rejuvenated and wanting to do this kind of work,
Right.
right?
And I think that makes for better counselors.
1000%. It makes for better people. It makes for happier, more sustainable people. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's beautiful. Okay, girly. So I think I've gotten a great picture of how you do both. Thank you for being so open and honest about your journey in both realms. And I would love to take this time to drop into some vulnerability, which we normally do at the end of our shows. I began doing this from the beginning of the podcast because a lot of the people that I interview here are from the outside looking in, beautiful, successful high achievers. And, you're a mama, like people will probably look up to individuals like us. And I think it's always important to remember or remind people that no matter how far you've come, the successes that you have, and I know you're big on like letting go of external validation and things of that sort. And so it's important to remind everyone that like everyone is human. We all kind of go through the same troubles through to some degree. And so what has been challenging for you currently, whether it's in business or in motherhood or something else that has been giving you a really good like learning lesson, or yeah, just like what have you been going through at this time that has been a hardship for you?
Yeah, so I have two. First one, I'll start with business. So with business, this year I really struggled with losing my motivation. So the thing that has propelled me to get to where I am was that need for external validation. It's like I had my son at 17. I didn't want to be a statistic, and so I wanted to rise above and beyond what anyone would have expected for me in high school. So that has been a huge thing in like overcoming different things of life. But once I let go of the need for external validation, I kind of hit this slump because I'm like, what I don't have anywhere else I want to go. What am I even doing? Like, why am I trying to build this thing? So I kind of lost sight of my vision. So the biggest thing that has helped with that is connecting in to others who have visions and and reconnecting with like where I want to go from here and what my motivations are to get there. So that's been a lot of intentional work. And it's so nice. It feels really cool to have that motivation back, but to have it with this level of confidence in my ability to do so. Like whatever comes up, I'm going to handle it. And
Mm.
I can do that because of everything I learned along the way.
Yeah. Okay. So if I'm understanding clearly, it's that you were a young mother, and you didn't want people judging you for that, that you didn't have any quote unquote accomplishments, since then, correct?
Hmm.
Um, and then here you are, a business owner doing all the things, and you healed and released that need for validation, and then you were like, well, then what am I doing this for?
Yeah.
Um, okay. And so this part of your life gets to be, I'm doing this for me. It's not for anybody else, but still the necessity of having clarity as to, well, why is this important for me?
Hmm. Yeah. So it's kind of similar. It's like, okay, a lot of the mission values and everything like is very similar to what it looked like before, but now the motivations for that is different.
And so what is that motivation for you? Do you have clarity on that?
I'll say the bird's eye view is just more time with my family. That's that's the goal.
Yeah, yeah, beautiful. And I'm sure like a lot of mamas can relate to that.
Yeah. And but
Yeah.
also like creating that for other people too. It's like how do we give them a space to where they can create that better balance and be different than a lot of other places that just like drive
Oh,
productivity kind of thing.
Yeah,
So,
which is really big in the clinicians world. I come from, working for into places where it was, agencies, and we had low budgets, and we had to make sure that we hit certain numbers to make sure that we, payroll was going to be good and all the things. And so, yeah, that and it's not just like in the therapy world, it's everywhere. It's the culture of like America of like hustle, hustle, hustle. And yeah,
mhm. Yep.
so okay, so your
Yep.
motivation now and your clarity is more so having more time for you and your
Yeah. Feels like it's more on solid ground because it's my terms, not everyone else's terms.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And the autonomy and the courage to also stand in that.
Yeah, for sure. Lots
Hmm.
more confidence.
Yeah.
And and then so personally, um, the thing that I'm struggling with right now is I have a weird lump in my neck, and I did an ultrasound on it, and so I go back for a CT scan next Thursday, and I'm trying to not catastrophize over it and like using all my CBT kind of skills and not letting myself kind of do the worst case scenario around, but it's kind of hard to navigate that. So it's okay, cry a little bit when I can, let my husband kind of help me through that, but
Yeah.
also like not going too far down that road of what it could be worst case scenario because it could be the best case scenario and it's just a lymph node and it's fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very possible too. But
Absolutely. Yeah.
I'll know more next week.
I was gonna
But
ask
it's
when
really
you're
hard as a clinician, right? Because you're seeing people and they're seeing things that like remind you, like, oh yeah, I have this going on personally. Let me put that back in a container over here and just be here completely present with this person. So
mm-hmm,
it's
mm-hmm.
hard to navigate is when you have those personal things going on that are big, but like you still have to show up for other people.
Yeah, I think that's a really good, thank you for sharing that, because I don't think a lot of people maybe think about that. They don't really have to, they don't need to think about that. But the reality of, therapists and counselors, they go through their own troubles. Of course, we're people, we're human. And yeah, sometimes we get reminded of those things in sessions of hearing other people's stories, and it's like your brain goes into the other realm, and it's like, wait, no, come back. We're here to provide for this person. We're here to serve this person. And so it's a lot of like it can be sometimes mental gymnastics of like, let me stay present with this client, let me help them. And we
Mhm.
do that, right? Because that's our job and that's what we were trained to do. And yeah, but the reality is that there's you two have a whole life happening that you're trying to juggle through and use your own tools within yourself. And I think that a lot of times people I know when I used to be a traditional therapist, my clients they would have this facade that I was perfect. And I was like, no,
Yeah.
like, absolutely not. Like, I don't have everything together. Um, I think that level of vulnerability and honesty is important for the client too. For
Hmm.
people listening to this episode, like, here are two therapists. Yeah, we go through our own things, and it's important for people to know that.
Yeah. We're just as human as everyone else.
Mm-hmm,
Yeah.
mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I hope the best for you, girly, and thank you for sharing that on this episode. And I'm wishing you lots of grace. You know these things, but I'm going to remind you anyway, right? To release and allow yourself to feel, and you'll be prepared for whatever comes next, no matter what it is.
Yep. I believe that 100%.
Yeah, yeah, beautiful. Well, thank you so much, Stephanie. Um, how can people find you if they want to work with you and your company and be supported by you? What is the best way that they can go ahead and do that?
Oh yeah. So the probably easiest would be to go to our website. It's ahchope.com. It stands for Anchoring Hope Counseling and then the word hope because a bunch of the domain names were taken. Or they can follow us on Facebook at AHC Hope and Instagram AHC Hope 20.
Beautiful, beautiful. And if you have any lasting thoughts, words of advice, to close this call, what would you say to our listeners at this time?
I would say, as a both a mom and entrepreneur, practice mindfulness as much as you can, because when you do that, it'll help you be more present as a therapist, but also as a mom, it will help you be more present with your kids and be so much more like making more of the time you have. If you have limited time with them, practicing that mindfulness and giving them 100% of your attention is going to maximize all of your experiences.
Mm, yeah, yeah, you literally cannot be in two places at once. And when we try to do that, you're just taking away from both experiences.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Steph,
Thank
thank you so
you.
much. This is a beautiful conversation, and we'll be in touch soon. Bye for now.
Okay. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you for joining me today on Mindset Mastery Podcast. I hope today's conversation inspired you to embrace your own journey of balancing motherhood and entrepreneurship. Remember, it's all about mastering your mindset to create a life of success and fulfillment in both areas. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, share it with a friend, and leave a review. Your support helps us reach more incredible moms just like you. Until next time, keep showing up, keep growing, and mastering your mindset.